Mag guys here on Birds 365. McMullen and McDonald, joined by one of the best Eagle reporters in the business. He does it for NBC Sports Philadelphia. Dave Zangaro jumps in with us here on Birds 365. Dave, how was your Thanksgiving before you had to go sit with McMullen on Sunday?
It was good. Yeah, no complaints. Yeah. Thanksgiving's always a fun holiday. So
yeah,
it was all good. My mom was sick, so she couldn't go.
I was sick, so except when you're sick. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom was sick. She couldn't get the dinner, so I had to bring back plates from my cousin's house.
Yeah, that's a shame. Hope she's feeling better.
She is, thanks. Yeah.
Everything going around. Unfortunately, C.J. Gardner-Johnson not feeling better. Lacerated kidney, according to Tom Pelissero from NFL Media. First thing I think of is Zach Ertz back in, what was that, 2019? And he made it back for the playoffs in a lot of ways. That was I think the crux of sort of the disconnect with the organization, Zach Ertz, and playing through that injury. It sounds serious, but it's pretty good indication CJ's going to be back at some point, don't you think, Dave?
Yeah, and it is serious in like a real world.
Yes, I should. Yes, that was bad.
Lacerated kidney. It's a big deal. The one thing of Zach Ertz, he came back and he played with it. It's not like every lacerated kidney is the same, we'll see. I think it is a good indication that he'll be back this year. We don't know when though. And there is a drop off, Reed Blankenship played well, but there's a reason he was an undrafted guy and there's a reason he's on the bench. Right. So, I think there's going to be some growing pains there, but I think the drop off is less significant than I thought it was going into Sunday night, which is a good sign.
Yeah, it certainly was on Sunday night. I don't know if it's going to be long term, but Reed really played well. Obviously got caught bad angle with Christian Watson, but other than that, well, that kid can run. But other than that,
to see a 6'5" dude like that and then watch him burst away with 21 miles an hour, that's tough.
Yeah. Other than that, he played very well. And I'm a little bit surprised the Eagles pulled that trigger and went Reed over Kayvon Wallace, which really started a couple weeks ago. Are you surprised they finally said, you know what? Let's give Reed a chance in these dime packages. All of a sudden, that little shift may have helped him when they needed it.
Not super surprised. Maybe the timing a little surprising because I thought Kayvon had one of his best plays 3 weeks ago. He stopped, I forget who it was, short of the goal, short of the first down marker. It was a really nice play, but overall, he hasn't been playing very well, and he's kind of been a disappointment throughout his time here whenever he's gotten a chance on defense. So not surprised to see a guy like Reed Blankenship just work his way up the depth chart. The timing certainly worked out for him and maybe for the team too, that he got put in that dime role and clearly passed Kayvon on the depth chart. And now they're going to need him. The one thing that impressed me most about Reed on Sunday night was that he just played like he belonged. And you would think that a rookie undrafted kid who's really playing his first defensive snaps in the NFL would be timid. And he wasn't. I mean, he was maybe a little too over aggressive, but that's fine. Like, you'll take that from a rookie. He was getting his nose in there. He was hitting hard. He's going to give them a physical element they might not have had with CJ, which is kind of ironic. He gets hurt on his biggest hit of the year. But Reed's not afraid to stick his nose in on those rundowns, and we'll see how that can play out.
All right, Dave, two-part question. First, I need you to confirm or deny a rumor for me, and then need you to answer the second part of the question. A little birdie told me that Howie Roseman received either a call or an email from Dave Zangaro saying, hey, I can cover kicks. If Britt Covey can run back kicks, I can cover kicks. We're very similar players, similar sizes. Howie, you got to get me on the coverage teams because right now your coverage teams stink. Confirm or deny that communication between Dave Zangaro and Howie Roseman. And number two, if that didn't happen, What is Nick Sirianni going to do? He addressed it yesterday. He threw out some possibilities. Is he actually going to enact any of them this Sunday against the Titans?
The first part of that, I'm trying to think, if I started running, where would the kick returner meet me? I think like 10 yards in front of me is where we would finally meet. It's got to change. I mean, you can't. That was an atrocious performance, and it's one of those things where you win the game, but I mean, that can cost you a game at some point. And they're now the second worst team in the league in kick return or opposing kick return averages. There have been 4 50-plus kick returns this year. There were 2 of them in the game against the Eagles. So not great. You have to figure it out. I don't know what the answer is, but the answer is not running it back. I'll tell you that. I don't know what the exact issues were. It's tough for me to break down special teams. I don't know what's going on out there.
Well, either does Michael Clay, to be honest.
Shout out Gold McMullen score.
No, we'll talk. Michael's very nice, man, and we'll talk to him today. But I do. Here's the indictment to me, Dave, and I mentioned this to Jody. If you're kicking off, and anybody other than Cordero Patterson is taking it out from 7 or more yards deep, they have no respect for you. They have no respect for you. I think that's got to be a wake-up call to Nick Sirianni, that the Packers even took that football out from that deep in the end zone. That is a clear sign of you can't cover a kick, because people, we'll take the 25. Most teams are like, 2 yards in the end zone, we'll take the 25. Not against the Eagles. Take that thing out.
Yeah, and I mean, the first kick of the game, the Eagles pinned them at their own 10, and they still had the confidence to run it out from, I think, -5 and -6 in this game. You're right. I mean, that's telling.
Yeah.
I don't know who the best options are. I don't. I mean, this team should not be this bad on special teams. They have some young athletic players who ought to be good, right? Like Zach McPherson has been good. I think Kyron Johnson's been pretty good. Nakobe Dean should be good. Like they have all these young players who should make this a decent, at least average special teams unit, and they've been below average. They've been the weakest of the 3 phases of the game, which, hey, if you had to pick one phase to be the weakest, this would be it. But, you worry that at one point in the season it's going to cost them a game, and they're about to play a team in the Titans that just mucks everything up and doesn't let teams break away from them. So, yeah, everything's a little tighter against playoff caliber teams, and it's something to worry about.
Dave, I'll use the word explanation rather than excuse here, because not this past week, but the week before, John gave A.J. Brown a bit of a pass on his fumble. I thought it was a really bad play. He tried to put a move on a guy rather than either sprinting by him and or dropping the shoulder pads and trying to drive through him. And he got the ball punched out on him. It was a good defensive play, but I thought AJ kind of brought it on himself. This week, at least, he was trying to run through a guy, but he's supposed to be swole Batman. He's not supposed to be able to get the ball punched out on him. So 2 weeks in a row, he's had bad turnovers. What will be the explanation this week if we go 3 consecutive weeks of A.J. Brown fumbles?
It better not. I mean, it can't happen. Swole Batman's got to tuck that football with 2 hands. That's, you can be as swole as you want. If you're holding it with one arm, it's going to get knocked out.
Yeah.
Look, it's twofold here, because when AJ is fully healthy and he hasn't, been dealing with a stomach bug all week, he's pretty strong. He's pretty tough to take down. You want him at times fighting for those extra yards, but he's got to know to tuck that football, because now that's on tape too. Opposing teams are going to see that. They're going to say, all right, we get this guy in the middle of the field, hold him up. I'm coming in with that peanut punch. We're going to get the football out. He has to be aware of that. And I'm sure we're going to talk to him quite a bit about that this week. It's not like he's had a huge fumbling problem in his career. So I don't think this is like all of a sudden the sky is falling on A.J. Brown. He's just got to get it cleaned up.
I blame the signs in the NovaCare complex, Dave. That's when it all started. They put him up. They said it was just timing. Hey,
the good news is AJ and Quez aren't on that.
That's true. That's true. But I did think Zaire Franklin, that was a knockout punch. That was a perfect hit of the football. I didn't have a problem with that one. This week I had more of a problem, and maybe you can just chalk it up from AJ was really sick all week, and obviously to the point where he was vomiting so much he bursted a blood vessel in his eye. So that's how sick AJ Brown was. So hopefully that's self-correcting.
It was funny in the locker room, by the way. We're talking to him on Friday, and he was like joking around a little bit, like, you guys want to talk? I said, all right, that's fine, man. Like, I know you've been sick. He said, no, we'll talk. So I'm standing there, and there's a crowd around him now, and he's starting to say how sick he was. And I slowly like start taking a step back.
Taking a step back, two steps back.
This.
Yeah, everybody's sick, man. It's crazy. But yeah, that's one of those things that sort of pop up during an NFL season. You never know when it's going to pop up, and you got to persevere. That, to me, is the most impressive thing about this team, Dave. Bottom line, we can talk about special teams. We have at times. We talk about the tackling. We have at times. Talk about the run support. We're going to talk a lot about that with Derrick Henry coming up. And they keep finding ways to win games. But this game is, styles make fights. That's the old adage. This is a team that I think has a style that could give the Eagles trouble, and it starts with that running game. And you saw it with A.J. Dillon, who's a big, powerful back, but he's not Derrick Henry, and the Eagles had a lot of problems with him. Jody and I have this discussion all the time. I don't think we're going to see this Eagles defense ever say, let's go load the box. Let's go load the box to stop the running game. They've made this sort of cost-benefit analysis. They want to limit as many explosive plays as possible on the back end. Now they have backups playing, Reed Blankenship, Josiah Scott. They're not going to show up Sunday and say, all right, let's put 8 people in the box to stop Derrick Henry. Are they?
Hard to imagine that. And the problem with that is you can do it. I mean, the Packers did it, right? We saw that a couple weeks ago. They sold out.
Cincinnati
to try to stop the run against Derrick Henry, and they did. Then Ryan Tannehill threw for 330 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns, and Derrick Henry threw for a touchdown because they were selling out so much against the run. So that was a big step for the Titans, actually, in that game to prove that, yeah, you go ahead, try it on us, try to stack the box. We can beat you in other ways. I agree with the Eagles just aren't going to do that all the way. I think there are certain things that they do. It's been so clear cut for me, this Eagles run defense. It's when they're in their 5-man, they can stop it. When they're in their 4, they can't.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's oversimplifying, but if you watch it, like, that's kind of what their issues have been. They don't have answers for it other than just having a nose tackle on the field. They haven't, and
is that, to me, is that like the question, Big Linval, strap up the elbow brace, you got to play 40 today?
Maybe.
That's the answer. That's it. It's 5-man front. They're okay. 4-man front. You might as well, get ready for the ride because Derrick Henry's taking you for one.
But when they go to the 5-man front, who comes off the field?
It's when they have the 5-man front, they can either they have a 5-2 or 5-1. But if they're playing dime, Kaiser would be the only linebacker on the field. They do that very rarely, but typically it's going to be 5-2, and that's the difficulty in the give and take and why they don't like to. What Dave is saying is, on obvious passing downs, they want to play a 4-man front, and they want to get after the quarterback, and they want to play quarters coverage, and they want to, start and cover 2 and then spin off from there. And when they do that, they don't stop the run.
Yeah,
that's pretty much.
And the whole defense is really predicated on this idea, right? I mean, it's not a bad strategy. It's get in the known pass and let's attack. And you get sacks, you get turnovers, and that's the ideal way. The problem is and this is true, we talked about it a few weeks ago when they were giving up all those third downs. a lot of those were because they were getting into the third and manageable to third and short. They were playing kind of behind the sticks a little bit defensively. That's a problem. It would help in this game if they get Jordan Davis back and they can rotate their nose tackles so that old Linval doesn't have to be out in the field for 70% of the snaps. That would help.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see Davis and Linval on the same front. That might make a difference.
Well, I don't know if they do that. I think they'd probably just rotate them.
Probably, but I'm saying against the Derrick Henry. You don't face Derrick Henry every week, so
True.
I'm saying, let's be honest. I mean, Fletcher and who Nick Sirianni said played one of his best games, Javon Hargrave. They're not great run defenders at this stage of the game. They're not comfortable with some of the odd man fronts, whether it's 4-eye, whether it's 5 that they have to play. They prefer to play 3 technique, prefer to go after the quarterback. And all of a sudden that they have to stop, and they call it 1.5 gaps, but whatever you want to call their run defense, they're not good at it. Jordan's good at it. Linval's good at it. And Ndamukong Suh, he didn't look very good at it to me at this point. It's interesting. It's something to throw in the mix. Do you think the Eagles are out of the box that way, though?
I mean, I think, before Jordan got hurt, I can only recall one time him playing in a 4-man front. Yeah. So it's hard for me to imagine him playing anywhere other than the nose when he comes back. Maybe Linval, but he just got here. So it's like, are you going to throw another position on him?
He can do it.
He can do it, but I don't think they're gonna make him. I think they'd rotate those guys before they played them next to each other. I get your point. I just don't think that they're gonna do that.
Dave Z, I want to jump over to the other side of the ball. From the time we found out after the loss against the Commanders that Dallas Goedert was going to the IR for at least 4 games, we started to speculate on what the Eagles would do to replace the production that they got from Dallas Goedert. Didn't quite do it in Indianapolis. Again, like John likes to point out, accurately so. And they won the game. We can sit here and second guess and point, the offense didn't do much. They won the game. This week, they put a whole bunch of points up, 40, and won the game. Is the answer just more running the football, more Jalen Hurts taking off with his legs and turning it upfield? Is that how they're going to replace the offense they lost when Dallas Goedert went to the IR?
I mean, maybe a little bit. I think the clearest answer to Goddard not being there is, to me, Quez Watkins, because you're going to have more 11 personnel. Those targets have to go somewhere. Dallas was getting around 6 targets a game. So not that it's all going to be that smooth and simple, but those targets got to go somewhere. And at first they go to A.J. Brown, and they go to Devonta Smith, and what's left over can now go to Quez. I thought that Quez touchdown was the best sign for him all season, because it's a back shoulder throw that I can't really remember Quez being targeted on one of those before. That's a timing route. That's trust between the quarterback and receiver. I thought that was a good sign to see that. They're going to run a lot more 11 personnel. The problem with their multiple tight end packages at this point, without Goddard, they don't really have the threat to throw out of them like they did with Dallas on the field. So you don't want to become predictable. And when you're in 12 personnel, you're running the football. That's a good way to get clogged up pretty quick. And with these tight ends, I think they have some ability, but it's really raw ability. They're not Dallas Goedert. And honestly, I don't want to run the offense saying we got to get the ball to Jack Stoll. That's not the winning recipe there. So I think we even saw some 10 personnel, 4 wides from the Eagles on Sunday night. I don't think we'll see a ton of that, but that tells you the way things are. You go away from the tight ends without Dallas Goedert, and that's what they did.
Yeah, you say things can get mucked up pretty quickly, but I got to tell you, Dave, I don't know anybody who can muck up this running game. I mean, it was so impressive. See,
this is a good test for him.
I know Jeffrey Simmons is one heck of a player. I'm going to go under 363 this week.
Nervy McMullen, you're getting jumpy, big guy.
Yeah, I'm going to go under, but I don't know if I'm going under 200. How? That obviously the answer to this question is everything, but if I asked you the Eagles running game, what is the biggest key? Is it the offensive line? Is it the +1 of Jalen Hurts? I don't think anybody thinks it's Miles. Nothing against Miles, who's having a career year, but is it Jeff Stoutland? Is it the inventiveness of his coordination of the running game? What would you pick first and say this is the foundation of it all?
Yeah, man. No knock on Miles.
He's last.
I want to get that out of the way first, though, because I want to give Miles credit because he's running harder.
Great season
than I've ever. He's running through contact this year, which is good because he's we haven't seen him do that a ton. But yeah, he's not the main key here. For me, man, those other three are very important and they're unique too. The +1 of Jalen Hurts, the offensive line. Look, I'll still go with the offensive line because those guys are so good and their athletic ability, especially Kelsey. I mean, you can almost argue like Kelsey's the same +1 as Hurts because, I mean, he is so quick to the next level. There aren't many guys that can do that. But Jalen just screws up the numbers for a defense so much. It's fun to watch defenses try to deal with it, and they can't. I mean, there's just no way to deal with it. It's the on-script stuff is bad enough. And then you have him scramble like we saw in that opening drive.
Yeah.
That's a backbreaker. But then if you ask all those players I just mentioned what the key is, I think they'll say Jeff Stoutland. And it's not just, we always say he's the offensive line coach, but his role as a run game coordinator is a big deal. His concepts and his attention to detail in that game, it makes a huge difference. So, man, I'd probably go O-line, Jalen, Stoutland if you're forcing me to pick, but I don't want to pick because I think they're all very, very close.
All right. If that question annoys you, this one will annoy you even more.
I'm going to start doing the chip thing. I don't do hypotheticals.
You know what I mean when I say RB1, the guy who's going to carry the football most for the team. And this year it will be Miles Sanders. 2023, the Eagles RB1 will be Miles Sanders, either Kenny Gainwell and or Boston Scott, a BBT back to be determined that they will get via the draft, or they bring in another veteran guy because there's a whole bunch of free agent backs this year. There are guys that are going to be paid even more than Miles Sanders is. He's not going to be the number one back in free agency this year. Who do you think the Eagles RB1 is going to be to start of the 2023 season?
Yeah, it's tough because I think Miles is a good player, and I think he's going to earn some money this offseason. I'm not convinced it's going to be with the Eagles. I think they have so many other free agents that I would prioritize over Miles. So I think there's a chance he could be back if the price is right. If he doesn't break the bank like he's hoping to, I think there's a chance he could be back. But I'm leaning toward finding a running back somewhere else. It might be time to draft another running back.
Trey Sermon. Come on.
I didn't even put Trey in the mix.
Yeah.
I hear so much Trey Sermon from fans. We haven't seen much of him here, but there might be something there. I don't know.
Yeah. The inactives every week that I joke is the sermon from the book of Job. And then you go from there. But yeah, I'm with you. Now here's what could help the Eagles out, Dave. Josh Jacobs is a free agent. If you look at some of the proven running backs that are scheduled to be on the market, that big contract. I mean, people don't want to pay that position in the NFL. So if the Eagles can bring Miles back on a 2-year deal, team friendly,
what would it take? Like 2-year, $10 million?
Yeah, why not?
I would do that. It would need to be cost effective. It couldn't be, it couldn't be a crazy high price. But if they can get it done, I think they'd like to bring him back. I don't think it's going to be a priority.
No, that we agree on. But that's for down the road as we sit here at 10-1, and the number one seed is obviously the number one goal. And it's more important now than ever because the extra playoff team, there's only one bye instead of two. So if you get that first round bye, it's so important. The Eagles have the inside track. Minnesota, they've already beaten. Dallas is sitting there. I got to tell you, though, I look at the way Dallas is playing, Dave, and San Francisco specifically. Those are the two teams I would be most concerned about if I'm an Eagles fan. Do you agree with that?
San Francisco for sure. They're they're getting hot right now, and they're just super talented. So that team definitely stands out to me, and that they have for a while. Like you're watching them, you're looking at the standings earlier in the year, going, "No, maybe they won't be able to figure this out." No, they've figured it out. They're a really good team. Yeah, Dallas is good too. The nice thing there is you have a game on them already. You probably don't want to see a division team in the playoffs just because you play a team 3 times a year. Strange things can happen. And then look, I know they're not playing well. I know Tom Brady looks washed. I don't think you want to see Tom Brady in the playoffs. And I know that is silly maybe right now to watch them and to think that they're dangerous. Don't want to see that dude in the playoffs. You just don't. He has the ability to just flip a switch. And I know it's not just on him, but nah, you don't want that.
Dave, it's funny that you went there because I do remember here on Birds 365 on our stream, my WIP shows, I got a lot of give us Brady the week leading up to the playoffs last year. When you didn't know who the Eagles were going to play, you knew they were going to play the JV the last regular season. Oh, we can beat Brady. We can beat it. And I just kept shaking my head going, what the hell are you talking about? You want no part of Tom. He's Tom friggin' Brady. Don't you understand that?
I've declared him dead too many times. I won't do it again.
I'm with those guys this year. He is dead. And it's more so the Buccaneers than it is Tom Brady. That team's dead in the water. They stink.
Someone's got to win that division.
I'd take them over the Vikings and their marginal defense, but a whole lot of weapons on offense over I'd take the 49ers. I don't want to face the Cowboys. Shoot, I might even have more respect for the Giants than I do the Bucs right now.
Okay.
Not me. Not the Giants.
We got two chances to get a look at the Giants before we get to the Giants in the postseason. But I've watched a lot of Tampa this year. They're just not a good football team, and they're not nearly as well coached as the team that took the Eagles out last year and the team that won the Super Bowl the year before. It's not the same.
I agree with you. Just don't want to see them.
Yeah. No, I mean that. Yeah, there's certain teams. Yeah, I get what Dave's saying. I mean, Aaron Rodgers showed up this week, and I'm like, I say what you want. I don't want to see him. I thought it was funny that Gannon brought him up twice before anybody even mentioned him. I mean, that's how much respect Aaron Rodgers has, and you saw little clips of it. But I also agree with Jody in that Tampa Bay's washed as a whole. I don't think there's anything Tom can do. But when you start playing it, I mean, to me, the Eagles have been the most well-rounded team in the NFL this year. And we nitpick because we have to nitpick. I'm going to be honest with you, Dave. I'm kind of bored with this team. They go out and win every week. It's boring.
At least it's been more exciting the last couple of weeks. There was a while where it was like, there was a little bit of score much in the second half, and they really had to milk that 21-point lead.
Yeah.
At least
and they had to lull. You know, it started in Houston. They didn't play great. That's a really bad team. Obviously, they lost to Washington. They didn't play well in Indianapolis. I don't even think they played that well against Green Bay. So there has been this bit of a lull. But boy, the quarterback has been steady. And it might be different each week, maybe a different way. We've talked about the MVP market, and this will be my last one for you. Make sure to follow Dave D. Zangaro, NBC NBC Sports Philadelphia. Does a tremendous job covering the Eagles. He's number 2 in the betting odds in most places. 2 is in the mix as well. Patrick Mahomes, fairly the prohibitive favorite. But if you went back and we were watching training camp every day, could you have ever imagined this would be the season that Jalen Hurts is having? I mean, it's been amazing.
Yeah, and it was, look, we all expected him to get better. I expected him to take a jump. I
Yeah.
didn't see this kind of jump coming. Just the way he's grown as a passer in this offense. Yeah, it's something special we're watching. And it's not to say he doesn't have more room to grow, which is kind of exciting too. I don't think he's reached his ceiling. I don't. I still think, and he'll tell you this. He has left plays out there.
Yeah.
I think there have been moments,
Well, yeah.
especially early in games. He'll be a little shaky to start games. I think like that's an area he can get better at. He's on the short list as an MVP favorite. You're right about Mahomes. Mahomes is probably the MVP, but Jalen is right there with them, and it only takes a couple game swing to really flip that.
Let me just say this though, Dave. You mentioned this isn't a ceiling. If this is a ceiling, this is fine, right? If
Sure.
this is it, this
Yeah.
is
Oh,
this
yeah.
is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, you still in the back of your mind, you still worry about, is this like sustainable long term? Because there are times where he needs to run the ball. He's going to smash the single season attempt record in terms of running quarterbacks, but he also doesn't take big shots. He's really smart for the most part. Like when he takes a shot, it's normally in the pocket. You think about, he must be getting hit downfield. No, not really. I mean, he's sliding, he's getting out of bounds. Occasionally he'll fight for yard, but
to the boundary. Yep.
Yeah, the biggest hits he takes are in the pocket, and sometimes he'll get a little lax with his pocket awareness, and he'll take a big shot. But that happens to quarterbacks. So I'm not too worried about that. That's something like you look at the numbers and I should be worried about that, but I'm really not. And he plays at this level. Yeah, he's gonna be good for a long time, and he's gonna get paid a lot of money.
All right, Dave, last one from me. On the record, I'm a big fan of both the Eagles defensive coordinator and their head coach, but their defense coordinator annoys me because of his lack of flexibility and never brings an extra defender, big defender, run defending defender on the field. So I get on his case for that every once in a while. The thing that gets on me, that bothers me the most about the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles is something that I don't think he'll show flexibility about either this Sunday. What's the worst part of the Philadelphia Eagles right now?
Special teams?
Special teams. Specifically, returns or coverage?
Well, after last game, coverage.
Coverage.
Could make an argument for both, though.
They're going to go out and flip a coin before the game starts, right? Let's say the Eagles win the coin toss, which they've won 9 out of 11 this year. If you're the head coach, do you not say, whoa, we don't want to have to cover to start the game. Let's put at least a better foot forward that we don't have them taking it out to the 50-yard line and have the crowd booing us on the first play of the game. Tell me Nick Sirianni's going to win the coin toss and say, give us the football.
No way.
No way. Yeah, no way. No way. And by the way, I don't even think that the kickoff return is necessarily better than the coverage. Although Boston's been a little bit better.
Some juice.
Yeah, he's been a little bit better. I'm surprised how long it took him to make that move. That to me is the bigger question. And since Jody's obsessed with coin tosses, so yes, I said last one. But first question to Michael Clay today, Dave. What are you asking about first?
What the heck happened? Yeah, I mean, what happened on kick coverage?
Yeah.
Good luck.
They gave up 2 50-yard returns, John. That doesn't happen. This is 2022. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. McMullen doesn't have the answer. Zangaro doesn't answer. McDonald doesn't have the answer. Or I don't think Michael Clay's going to have the answer either. But you are exactly right. You must ask that question. We appreciate your answering our questions, Dave Gonzaro. Always a pleasure when you come on with us. Thanks, bud.
All right.
Thanks, Dave.
NBC Sports Philly Zone.